The ship arrived at Galactic Unity Academy on a cold morning. Well, every morning was cold in space. The massive station floated in the darkness between stars, its metal walls stretching for miles in every direction. Thousands of windows glowed with soft light. Inside, young cadets from 100 different worlds trained to become soldiers, pilots, and leaders stepped off the transport ship and took her first breath of recycled air. It tasted strange, like metal and chemicals. She was used to the fresh winds of Earth, the smell of rain and grass and ocean. But Earth was very far away now. She was the first human to ever set foot in this place. The hallway in front of her was wide enough to fit 10 people walking side by side. Strange creatures moved past her without a second look. Some walked on 2 legs like her. Others crawled on 6 or 8. A few floated through the air with no legs at all. Their bodies came in every color and shape she could imagine. Blue skin, green scales, feathers, fur, and things she had no words for. Was 22 years old. She had black hair cut short above her shoulders and dark eyes that noticed everything. Back on Earth, she had been a soldier. She had trained in mountains and deserts and frozen wastelands. She had learned to fight, to survive, and to never give up. The military had chosen her for this mission because she was the best they had. But here, she was nothing. Just a small human girl from a small planet that most species had never heard of. She walked through the station with her bag over her shoulder. Every few steps, someone would stop and stare at her. Their eyes held curiosity, confusion, and sometimes disgust. She heard whispers in languages she did not understand, but she understood the tone. It was the same in every language. They were mocking her. A tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms blocked her path. It looked down at her with yellow eyes. "You are the human," it said. Its voice was deep and rough. "Yes," replied. "You are very small." "Yes." The creature made a sound that might have been laughter. Then it walked away, shaking its head. Kept moving. Her room was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a desk. The walls were plain metal with no windows. She set her bag on the bed and sat down. For a long moment she just breathed. The weight of being so far from home pressed against her chest. But she did not cry. She had made a promise to herself before leaving Earth. She would not let them see her weak. She would not let them break her. The next 3 weeks were the hardest of her life. Every morning, she woke up before the artificial sun lit the corridors. She ran laps around the station while most cadets were still sleeping. She practiced combat moves in empty training rooms. She studied alien languages until her head ached. The classes were designed for species stronger and faster than humans. The teachers did not slow down for her. They expected her to fail. When she struggled to lift weights that other cadets lifted easily, they wrote notes on their screens. When she fell behind in running exercises, they shook their heads, but never stopped trying. The other cadets avoided her. No one sat next to her in the dining hall. No one spoke to her unless they had to. She ate her meals alone, surrounded by hundreds of creatures who acted like she did not exist. The worst were they were tall and covered in dark scales. They came from a planet with gravity twice as strong as Earth. This made them incredibly powerful. Their muscles were like stone, and their claws could cut through metal. They were raised to believe that strength was everything. The weak existed only to serve the strong. 5 cadets had made it their personal mission to make life miserable. Their leader was named. He was bigger than the others, with scales so black they seemed to absorb light. His eyes were red and his teeth were sharp as knives. Every time he saw, he would say something cruel. "Look at the dirt walker," he would say to his friends. "So soft, so weak. I could break her bones with one hand." His friends would laugh, would keep walking. She learned to ignore them. She had dealt with bullies before. On Earth, she had faced men twice her size who thought women did not belong in the military. She had proven them wrong. She would prove these aliens wrong too. Then Park Ho arrived. Ho was 17 years old, the second human ever accepted into the academy. He had bright eyes and a quick smile. He believed in the goodness of others. He believed that if he just worked hard enough, everyone would accept him. Saw herself in him, a younger, more innocent version of herself, before life had taught her that some battles could not be won with kindness. She found him in the dining hall on his first day, sitting alone at a table while alien cadets whispered and pointed. "May I sit here?" she asked. Ho looked up and his face lit up with relief. "You are human too. I am so happy to meet you." She sat across from him. "How was your first day?" "Difficult," he admitted. "Everyone looks at me like I am an insect, but I will show them. I will train harder than anyone. I will prove that humans belong here." Nodded slowly. She did not tell him what she was thinking. She did not tell him that some creatures would never accept them, no matter how hard they tried. She did not tell him that this place was dangerous for people like them. Instead, she said, "If you need help, come find me." Ho smiled. "Thank you, I am glad I am not alone." But knew the truth. In this station full of aliens who saw them as insects, they were very much alone. And the Academy's instructors, the ones who were supposed to protect all cadets equally, watched the humans with cold eyes and did nothing when they pushed them in hallways or knocked food from their hands. The instructors had already decided that humans would fail. They were just waiting for it to happen. Looked at Ho's hopeful face and felt something heavy in her chest. He did not understand yet, but he would learn. Everyone learned eventually. She just hoped the lesson would not break him. 2 weeks passed. Ho worked harder than anyone had ever seen. He woke up early and went to bed late. He studied alien languages until he could speak 3 of them. He trained his body until his muscles screamed for rest. He never complained. He never gave up. But the harder he tried, the more they hated him. And his 4 friends followed Ho everywhere. They tripped him in hallways. They pushed him against walls. They called him names that did not translate into human language but were clearly insults. And always, the instructors looked the other way. Warned Ho to be careful. She told him to never be alone, to always stay where others could see him. But Ho was young and stubborn. He believed that if he just ignored the bullies, they would eventually stop. He was wrong. It happened on a rest day, when most cadets were relaxing in their rooms or visiting the recreation areas. Ho had decided to use the time for extra training. He went to Training Hall 7C, a small room in a quiet part of the station. He wanted to practice combat simulations without anyone watching him fail. The room was empty when he arrived. Metal walls surrounded a flat floor covered in soft padding. Holographic targets could appear from anywhere, testing a cadet's reflexes and fighting skills. Ho activated the basic program and began to train. He did not hear the door open behind him. He did not see the 5 cadets enter the room. He only realized he was not alone when a massive clawed hand grabbed his shoulder and threw him against the wall. Ho hit the metal hard. Pain exploded through his back. Before he could recover, was standing over him, red eyes burning with hatred. "Did you think we would leave you alone, little human?" said. His voice was like rocks grinding together. "Did you think you could hide from us?" Ho tried to stand, but one of the other kicked his legs out from under him. He fell back to the floor. "Please," Ho said, "I have done nothing to you." Laughed. It was an ugly sound. "You exist, that is enough. Your kind does not belong here. You are weak, you are soft, you are nothing." He reached down and grabbed Ho by the front of his uniform. With one arm, he lifted the human off the ground like he weighed nothing. "On my world," said, "we have a name for creatures like you, prey. And prey exists for one reason only, to feed the strong." He threw Ho across the room. The human crashed into a training dummy and fell to the floor in a heap. The 5 surrounded him. What followed was not a fight. It was a beating. Ho tried to defend himself, but he was one small human against 5 alien predators. Their fists were like hammers. Their claws left red lines across his skin. They were careful not to break any bones, not to leave marks that could not be explained. They had done this before. They knew how to hurt someone without leaving proof. High above the training room, there was an observation window. Behind the dark glass, 2 figures watched. Senior instructor was a species of warriors covered in natural armor. He had fought in 3 wars and killed more enemies than he could count. His body was covered in scars, and his eyes were cold as ice. Beside him stood instructor. They were thin, bird-like creatures with large eyes and soft feathers. They could sense emotions the way other species sensed light or sound, felt everything happening in the room below, the fear from the human, the joy from the... It made the instructor uncomfortable, but not enough to act. "Should we stop this?" asked, its voice soft and musical. "Did not move, no. The human is being injured. The human is being tested," turned his armored head toward his colleague. "This is how the academy works. The weak must learn their place. If the human cannot survive this, he does not deserve to be here." "But the rules say..." "The rules are guidelines," interrupted. "They are valuable allies to the galactic unity. Humans are an experiment, a political gesture, nothing more." He looked back at the window. "Let the natural order take its course." Below, Ho had stopped trying to fight back. He curled into a ball on the floor, trying to protect his head and stomach. Blood dripped from his nose and lip. His left eye was swelling shut. Every breath hurt. Stood over him, breathing hard. The beating had excited him. His scales seemed darker, his eyes brighter. "Remember this," said. "Remember what you are, pray, and if you ever forget, we will remind you." He kicked Ho one more time, then stepped back. "Let us go," he said to his friends. "I think the human has learned his lesson." The 5 turned toward the door, laughing and congratulating each other. They did not see the door open. They did not see the figure standing in the doorway. But they felt something change in the room. The air grew heavy. The temperature seemed to drop. One of them stopped laughing, then another, then all of them. Turned around slowly. Stood in the entrance of Training Hall 7C. She was smaller than any of them. Her body was soft, without scales or armor or claws. By every measure that mattered to she was weak. But her eyes told a different story. Looked at Ho on the floor, blood on his face and pain in his body. She looked at the 5 standing over him like hunters over fallen prey. She looked at the observation window above, where she knew instructors were watching and doing nothing. And something very old woke up inside her. Felt it first, a cold sensation running down his spine. His scales, which protected him from extreme heat and cold, suddenly felt thin and useless. His muscles, which could crush stone, suddenly felt weak. He was afraid. This made no sense. He was apex predator, he feared nothing. But looking into this small human's eyes, he felt like a small animal caught in the gaze of something much, much bigger. Did not move, she did not speak, she just looked at them. In the observation room above, instructor made a strange sound. Its feathers stood up on its body. Its large eyes went wide. "What is that?" it whispered. "What am I feeling?" Frowned. He could not sense emotions like the could, but even he noticed something had changed. The below, 5 of the strongest cadets in the academy were standing completely still. They looked scared. Of one human female. Impossible. In the training room, took one step forward. Stepped back. He did not mean to. His body moved on its own. Every instinct he had, every survival reflex built into his species over millions of years, screamed the same message. "Danger, run, now." His voice was quiet when she finally spoke, but in the silence of the room, it carried like thunder. "Walk away." Wanted to say something. He wanted to laugh, to threaten, to show this human her place. but his mouth would not work, his legs would not obey. The other were already moving toward the door. One of them pushed past and ran down the corridor, then another, then the rest. Was the last to go. He stared at for a long moment, trying to understand what had just happened, trying to understand why his heart was beating so fast. Then he ran too. Watched them go. Only when the corridor was empty did she let out a slow breath. Her hands were shaking slightly. She had not been sure that would work. She walked to Ho and knelt beside him. "Can you stand?" she asked. Ho looked up at her with his one good eye. He had seen everything. He did not understand it, but he had seen it. "What did you do?" he whispered. Helped him to his feet. I reminded them what humans are. And what are we? She looked toward the observation window above, where she knew the instructors were still watching. "Survivors," she said quietly. "We are survivors." The medical wing of Galactic Unity Academy was quiet. Machines beeped softly, monitoring the health of patients from 100 different worlds. The doctors here knew how to heal wounds that human medicine could not even imagine. Broken bones could be fixed in hours. Damaged organs could be in days. But some wounds went deeper than flesh and bone. Ho sat on a white bed while a medical robot cleaned the cuts on his face. The blood had stopped, but the bruises were already turning dark purple. His left eye was completely swollen shut. Every time he breathed, pain shot through his ribs. Stood by the door like a guard. She had not left his side since the training room. Her face was calm, but her eyes kept moving, watching every person who walked past. "You should rest," Ho said. His voice was weak. "I will rest when I know you are safe." "They will not come back. You scared them." Did not answer. She was not sure what had happened in that training room. She only knew that when she saw Ho on the floor, something inside her had changed. Something old and powerful had risen from deep within her mind. It was not anger exactly. It was something colder, something sharper. The door opened and instructor entered. The bird-like alien moved slowly, its large eyes fixed on. It stopped a few feet away, studying her like she was a puzzle it could not solve. "May I speak with you?" asked. Its voice was soft and careful. "Speak." Looked at Ho, then back at, "In private, perhaps." "Whatever you have to say, you can say in front of him." The instructor was quiet for a moment, then it nodded. "Very well. I was in the observation room during the incident. I saw what happened. More importantly, I felt what happened." His eyes narrowed. "You watched, you did nothing." Yes, lowered its head slightly. Among its kind, this was a sign of shame. Senior instructor made the decision. I did not agree, but I did not fight him. For that, I am sorry. Ho looked surprised. He had not expected an apology from any instructor. His face did not change. "Why are you here now?" "Because I need to understand." Stepped closer, its feathers rustling with nervous energy. My species can sense emotions the way you sense sound or light. We feel what others feel. It is how we communicate, how we understand the universe." It paused, searching for words. "When you entered that training room, I felt They were confident, excited, enjoying their power over the weaker human, normal predator emotions. Then you looked at them and everything changed." His voice dropped lower. "I have worked at this academy for 30 years. I have evaluated cadets from hundreds of species. Warriors, hunters, killers. I have felt their confidence, their aggression, their will to dominate. But I have never felt anything like what came from you in that moment." Waited. "It was not anger," continued. "Anger is hot and wild. This was cold, controlled, ancient." The eyes seemed to grow larger. It was like standing at the edge of a deep canyon and feeling the weight of all the years that carved it. You looked at those and they felt something that their species has not felt in 10,000 generations. "And what was that?" asked quietly. "Fear, true, primal fear, the fear of prey before a predator," shook its head slowly. But that is impossible. Our apex predators, they fear nothing. Their ancestors conquered their world through strength and violence. They have no natural enemies. Looked at the alien for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was calm and steady. Do you know anything about Earth? Only what is in the official files. A small planet, mild climate, young species, unremarkable. The files are wrong. Walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Earth is not mild. Earth is a battlefield. For billions of years, life on our planet has been fighting to survive. Ice ages that froze the entire world. Asteroids that killed almost everything. Volcanoes that blocked out the sun. Diseases that wiped out millions in months. She turned back to face. Humans have only existed for a few 100,000 years. In that time, we have faced extinction dozens of times. We fought animals with claws and teeth bigger than any. We hunted them and they hunted us. For thousands of generations, every single one of my ancestors had to survive long enough to have children. The weak died. The afraid died. Only the survivors passed on their blood. Ho listened in silence. He had learned Earth history in school, but he had never heard it described like this. Every human carries that history, continued. It is written in our bones, in our blood, in the way our eyes see movement, in the way our hearts beat faster when we sense danger. We are not predators like we are something else, something they have never seen before. And what is that? Asked. His eyes seemed to darken. We are the species that refuse to die. Again and again and again, the universe tried to kill us. And every time we looked death in the face and said no. That is what those felt. Not anger, not violence. Just the simple, absolute certainty of a creature that has survived everything. Was silent for a long time. Its feathers had flattened against its body, a sign of deep thought. I must report this to the council, it said finally. What I felt in that room, what you have told me, this changes things. The Academy has been treating humans as a lesser species, a political experiment, but if what you say is true. I do not care about politics, said. I care about two things. I care about protecting my people, and I care about justice for what happened to Ho. The council will review the incident, the footage. There was no footage. The drones were turned off. Hesitated. That is not entirely accurate. The drones were supposed to be deactivated, but Academy regulations require backup recordings for all training rooms. The footage exists. It has already been collected. For the first time, showed surprise. Someone will be held responsible, said. I cannot promise what the council will decide, but I can promise that this will not be ignored. The turn to leave, then stopped at the door. One more thing, it said. Senior instructor is powerful. He has allies on the council and throughout the fleet. He will not accept punishment quietly. You should be careful. I am always careful, said. After left, Ho looked at with new eyes. Is everything you said true? He asked. About Earth, about what we are. Walked back to his bedside and sat down. Every word. I never thought about it that way. I always believed we were weak compared to other species, that we had to prove ourselves. We do not have to prove anything to anyone. His voice was gentle but firm. They evolved on a planet that was kind to them. Strong gravity made them strong. Weak enemies made them confident. They have never known real challenge. She looked out the window at the stars again. Humans evolved on a planet that was trying to kill us. Every day was a fight. Every generation was a test. To think they are strong because they have big muscles and sharp claws. They do not understand that true strength comes from surviving the impossible. Ho thought about this. His body still hurt. His pride was still wounded, but something inside him felt different now, stronger. What happens now? He asked. Now we wait, said. The council will make their decision. The instructors will be judged, and will learn that there are consequences for their actions. And if the council does nothing? Smiled, but there was no warmth in it. Then we will remind them why humans survived when so many other species did not. Outside the medical wing, in the corridors of the academy, word was already spreading. Cadets whispered to each other about what had happened in Training Hall 7C, about the human female who had made 5 warriors run away without throwing a single punch. Something was changing at Galactic Unity Academy. And it was only the beginning. The council chamber was the largest room in Galactic Unity Academy. Its walls curved upward like the inside of an egg, covered in screens that displayed information from across the galaxy. In the center, a raised platform held seats for the 7 council members who governed the academy. They represented the 7 most powerful species in the Galactic Unity Alliance. Today, every seat was filled. Commandant was the head of the council. Its body was made of living crystal, pale blue and slightly transparent. When it spoke, its voice came from everywhere at once, like music played through the walls themselves. "This emergency session is now open," announced. "We are here to review Incident Report 742, the assault on Human Cadet Park Ho by cadets in Training Hall 7C. The screens around the chamber lit up with footage. Every angle of the attack was shown. The entering the room, the beating, Ho curling on the floor, and then entering and stopping everything with nothing but her presence." The council watched in silence. When the footage ended, Commandant turned its crystalline head toward 2 figures standing below the platform. Senior Instructor and Instructor. Senior Instructor said, its voice cold. "You were present in the observation room during this assault. Is this correct?" Stood tall, his armored body rigid. "It is correct." "And you chose not to intervene. Why?" "It is Academy tradition," replied. His voice was steady, without shame. "Cadets must learn to solve conflicts themselves. The weak must discover their place. This has been the way for centuries." "The way for centuries," repeated. "And yet, Academy rules clearly state that instructors must protect all cadets equally. That violence between cadets is forbidden outside of supervised training exercises. These rules have also existed for centuries." Said nothing. "You have been an instructor here for 40 years, continued. "In that time, how many incidents like this have occurred under your watch?" Still remained silent. Another council member spoke. It was a massive creature called Ambassador, representing the. Its scales were gray with age, but its eyes were sharp. "I must speak in defense of Instructor," said. "The cadets involved in this incident come from high-ranking families. Their actions, while perhaps excessive, reflect the values of our culture. Strength must be tested. Weakness must be exposed. This is how great warriors are made." "Great warriors," said another council member, a thin being made of flowing water contained in a humanoid shape. "Is that what you call 5 cadets beating one unconscious student who did not fight back?" Scales shifted uncomfortably. The human was given a chance to prove himself. He failed. "He was ambushed," the water being replied. "He was attacked without warning by superior numbers and superior strength. That is not a test, that is cowardice." The chamber erupted in argument. Different council members shouted at each other, their voices overlapping in a dozen languages. The translator system struggled to keep up. Commandant raised one crystal arm, and silence fell instantly. "There is another matter we must discuss," said quietly. "This morning, our communication systems received a message from Earth." The screens changed. A human face appeared, an older woman with gray hair and steel in her eyes. She wore the uniform of Earth's United Military Council. "This is General Ha Sun-young of Earth's Diplomatic Defense Force," the recording began. "We have reviewed the footage of the attack on Cadet Park Ho at Galactic Unity Academy. We have also reviewed the Academy's history of similar incidents involving non-human cadets." The general's eye seemed to stare directly through the screen. "Earth entered the Galactic Unity Alliance with hope. We believed we would be treated as equals. We believed our children would be safe in your care. We were wrong. Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Effective immediately, Earth is suspending all diplomatic missions to galactic unity stations until the following conditions are met. First, the cadets responsible for the attack must be expelled and returned to there in disgrace. Second, any instructor who allowed this attack to happen must be removed from their position. Third, the Academy must implement new policies to protect all cadets equally, regardless of species or political power. General Ha paused, and when she spoke again, her voice was like iron. Humanity has existed for only 40 years in the galactic community. Many species believe we are weak, that we can be pushed around, that our planet is too small to matter. Let me be very clear. Earth has 8 billion people. We have unified our entire world. We speak with one voice, and that voice is saying this. Harm one of us, and you answer to all of us. The recording ended. The council chamber was completely silent. Ambassador looked shaken. They were powerful, but there had only 2 billion inhabitants spread across several colonies. They had allies, but so did Earth. And no one had expected humans to respond so quickly or so forcefully. Commandant spoke into the silence. The message from Earth arrived 3 hours ago. Since then, we have received similar messages from 6 other species who have allied themselves with humanity. They are watching how we handle this situation. They are waiting to see if galactic unity will protect the weak or side with the strong. Turn back to senior instructor. You have served this academy for 40 years. In that time, you have trained thousands of cadets. Many of them now serve with honor throughout the fleet. The commandant's crystal body seemed to darken. But today, your actions have threatened everything this academy stands for. Your personal beliefs led you to abandon a student in danger. Your choices have created a diplomatic crisis that could take years to repair. Finally showed emotion. His armored plates shifted, clicking against each other in what might have been anger. I did what I believed was right, he said. Humans do not belong here. They are soft, emotional, weak. I was trying to show them. You were trying to break them, interrupted. And in doing so, you proved only one thing, that you do not understand humanity at all. The commandant gestured to the screens, which now showed the moment had entered the training room. The footage zoomed in on her face, on her eyes. Look at this human. 5 predators stood before her. Any one of them could have killed her with a single blow, and yet when she looked at them, they ran. They ran like prey animals from a hunter. Can you explain this, senior instructor? Could not. Instructor has submitted a psychological evaluation of this incident. According to his analysis, the human female produced an emotional signature unlike anything he has encountered in 30 years of study. He describes it as ancient, primal, and absolutely certain. Paused. Does this sound like a weak species to you? The council voted. It was unanimous. The 5 cadets were expelled immediately. They would be sent home in disgrace, their names recorded in Academy archives as examples of what not to become. Senior instructor was stripped of his rank. He would be transferred to a remote monitoring station at the edge of known space, where he could contemplate his failures in solitude. Instructor was given a formal warning but allowed to remain at the academy. The council recognized that while it had not stopped the attack, it had also not encouraged it, and it had shown genuine remorse. New policies were announced. No cadet would ever be left unmonitored. No instructor would ever be allowed to watch violence without intervening. The old traditions of strength testing were officially abolished. And most importantly, humanity's status at the academy was changed. They were no longer an experiment or a political gesture. They were equals. As the council session ended and members filed out, Commandant remained. Its crystal body caught the light from the screens, creating rainbows on the walls. Interesting species, these humans, it said to no one in particular. Very interesting indeed. In the medical wing, Ho heard the news from a passing cadet. He turned to with tears in his eyes. "We won," he said. "They actually listened. They actually cared." Nodded slowly. They listened because they were afraid. They cared because they had no choice. But it is a start. What happens now? Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth was spinning through space. 8 billion humans living their lives, unaware of what had just happened in this small station between stars. "Now we show them what else humans can do," she said. "Now we prove that we did not come here just to survive. We came here to lead." 3 years passed. Galactic Unity Academy changed in ways no one had predicted. The old traditions died slowly, but they died. Cadets from different species began to train together, learn together, and even become friends. The hallways that once echoed with whispers and cruel laughter now rang with genuine conversation. It started small. A few cadets who had seen the footage of Training Hall 7C began to look at humans differently. They noticed how hard the human cadets worked. They noticed how they never gave up, never complained, never asked for special treatment. They noticed the quiet strength that seemed to radiate from them like heat from a star. Then, slowly, respect replaced fear. Understanding replaced ignorance. The academy became what it was always supposed to be, a place where all species could learn from each other. And at the center of this change was. She graduated at the top of her class, not just among humans but among all cadets from all species. Her combat scores were the highest in a decade. Her strategic thinking impressed even the most experienced instructors. When she walked through the corridors, other cadets nodded to her with respect. 12 different elite units across the Galactic Unity Fleet offered her positions. Command ships, special forces, exploration teams. Each one promised power, glory, and adventure among the stars. She turned them all down. Instead, returned to the academy, not as a student but as an instructor. The day she arrived in her new uniform, the entire academy seemed to hold its breath. Cadets gathered in hallways to watch her walk past. Even the older instructors stopped what they were doing to see the human who had changed everything. Her first official act was to visit the observation room above Training Hall 7C. She stood where had once stood, looking down at the floor where Ho had bled. "Never again," she said quietly. Her second act was to personally greet every new human cadet who arrived at the academy. That year there were 12 of them. Earth had increased its academy program after the incident, sending more of its best young people to train among the stars. They came from different countries, different backgrounds, different dreams, but they all shared one thing. They all knew the story of. She gathered them in a small room on their first day. 12 nervous faces looked up at her, filled with hope and fear and determination. "You have heard stories about me," began. "Some of them are true, some of them are exaggerated, but none of them matter. What matters is why you are here." She walked slowly among them, meeting each of their eyes. "You are here because humanity has decided to reach for the stars. You are here because our species, after thousands of years of fighting each other, has finally learned to fight together. You are here because you represent the best of what we can be." A young cadet named raised her hand. "Instructor, the other species, will they accept us? Will they respect us?" Smiled. It was a warm smile, but there was something deep and ancient behind it. "Some will, some will not. That is not your concern. Your concern is to be the best version of yourself, to train harder than anyone else, to learn faster than anyone expects. And when the time comes, when someone threatens what you have sworn to protect, you will show them exactly what humanity is made of." She paused, looking at each of them in turn. "We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the fastest or the most advanced, but we are the most determined. For 100,000 years the universe has tried to kill us. Ice ages, diseases, asteroids, wars, And every single time we have looked extinction in the face and refused to fall." Her voice grew quieter, but somehow more powerful. "That refusal is written in your blood. It is carved into your bones. When you face an enemy who thinks you are weak, you do not need to argue with them. You do not need to prove anything. You simply look them in the eye and you let them see what 100,000 years of survival looks like." The young cadets sat in silence, their eyes wide. "Now go," said. "Your training begins tomorrow. Get some rest. You will need it." As they filed out, stopped at the door. "Instructor, what happened to Cadet Park Ho, the one from the stories?" His expression softened. "He graduated 2 years ago. He now serves on the flagship of the Third Fleet as a tactical advisor to Admiral, the same commandant who sat in judgment during the incident." "They trust him that much." "They trust humans that much, because of what we showed them." Walked to the window and looked out at the stars. "Ho sends me messages sometimes. He says that when he walks through the corridors of his ship, crew members from a dozen different species nod to him with respect, not because they fear humans, but because they have learned what we truly are." "And what is that?" Turned back to face the young cadet. "Partners, allies, friends," she paused, "and when necessary, the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Nodded slowly, a new light in her eyes. Then she left to join her fellow cadets. Stood alone in the empty room for a long time, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the first day she had arrived at the academy, small and alone, and surrounded by creatures who saw her as nothing. She thought about Ho, bloodied on the training room floor. She thought about the look in his eyes when she had finally let him see what lived behind her human face. They had returned to there in disgrace. Their families had disowned them. Their military careers were over before they began. The last had heard was working as a manual laborer in a mining colony, far from the glory he had once dreamed of. She did not feel sorry for him, but she did not feel satisfied either. Revenge had never been the point. The point was change. And change had come. A soft chime announced a visitor. The door opened, and instructor entered. The had remained at the academy, working to understand humans better. Over the years, it had become something like a friend too. "The new cadet seemed promising," said, its voice soft and musical. "They are afraid," replied. "That is normal, they will learn." "As we all have learned." Walked to stand beside her at the window. 3 years ago, I thought I understood the galaxy. I thought I knew where every species fit in the great order of things. Predators and prey, strong and weak, simple categories. And now I know that I understood nothing." Turned its large eyes toward her. "Humans do not fit into our categories. You are not predators, but predators fear you. You are not prey, but you have the eyes of hunted creatures. You are something new, something we have never seen before." Nodded slowly. "We are survivors. That is what we have always been. And when you survive long enough, you become something else. Something that even the oldest predators learn to respect. Or fear. Fear and respect are often the same thing." They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars turn slowly past the window. Somewhere out there, human ships were sailing through space, carrying the children of Earth to distant worlds. Some would explore, some would trade, some would fight. All of them would carry that ancient fire in their eyes, that unbreakable will that had seen humanity through ice ages and plagues and the long, lonely climb from caves to starships. "Do you ever miss Earth?" asked. Thought about it. She thought about the blue skies and green forests, the mountains and oceans and endless human cities. She thought about rain on her face and wind in her hair. "Every day," she said. "But Earth does not need me. The galaxy does. There are still species out there who think humans are weak. There are still bullies in the universe who prey on those they consider lesser." She turned away from the window, her eyes hard. "I am going to teach them otherwise. One cadet at a time. One glance at a time. until every being in this galaxy understands what it means to threaten a human. Made a sound that might have been a laugh, and what does it mean? Smiled, and it was not a gentle expression. It means you have just made an enemy of a species that has spent 100,000 years learning how to survive everything. And we do not forget, we do not forgive, and we absolutely do not stop. She walked toward the door, ready to begin another day of training the next generation of human warriors. Now, if you will excuse me, I have cadets to terrify. As she left, watched her go with something like wonder in its alien eyes. Humans, the thought, the strangest species in the galaxy. And perhaps in the end, the most important. The stars continued to turn. The universe continued to expand. And somewhere in the darkness between worlds, humanity continued to survive. As it always had. As it always would.